Hi everyone, must be Wednesday. I've been doing these Facebook Lives, trying to do one every Wednesday. Today I'm going to be cutting kind of a freehand, free-form shape on hair that's been pre-permed. This was permed by our friend Shraddha. She did a live not too long ago on perms, and it was awesome. In this case, I've already cut this same mannequin once into a long twist cut, which you can see on a previous episode of Facebook Live. Now I wanted to take it into kind of a rounded bob with lots of graduation and layers and probably even a shorter fringe. So just round it all the way through. So starting off on the outline, you can see that I've loosely sectioned around the hairline here, using my clip actually to take the sections, or my fingers. I won't be doing a lot of cutting here. This is a freehand or free form haircut where I'm really just trying to cut those curls exactly as they fall. This hair was actually dried naturally after the last haircut, the twist cut, that a lot of you guys, I know, got great feedback from that. A lot of people really enjoyed it and were using the technique. And I decided to just pick her up and take her into something different. So you can see all this is just falling naturally from how it dried last time. I go through visually, just using my fingers, really trying to look at the curls. And, sometimes I'll do a little kind of pre-sectioning based on the curls, the thickness, how they're falling. And then I can really see them down here at the bottom. And then I'll come in. I try not to take too much. You can tell when, some of the hair is kind of stuck together. And then using my HB Pro Dry so that the line isn't super blunt. And doing a little bit of shallow point cutting as I work. You can see I've already kind of rounded through the one side, the outline here, so you can see what I mean by a rounded outline. It's coming up to about chin level and then dropping down into the hairline, and I'm following that through here on the opposite side. Once that's done, I'll take down, this haircut will probably have about 4 panels. And the second one will start to have some graduation in it. And then we'll have some layering above that, and then we'll probably have an area for the front or the fringe. I don't want to do a lot of pre-sectioning, and I've deliberately loosely clipped using the Crux clips that we sell at hairbrain.pro. You can see it's got this rubber band in it. So it holds that hair without putting a crease in it, and it does it fairly gently. So I don't want to have lots of pre-sections and have it all tied up, because, the whole idea is to see that hair fall naturally. In a perfect world, I could even have an assistant just hold that for me. But as you can see, I'm working from home, as most of us in California are these days, if we're working at all. So here I start to head upward, and I'm heading towards the corner of the chin. So working free form like this, obviously you got to really just kind of keep your eyes on the prize and just keep seeing where you're going, and then kind of get there curl by curl. Now, I think there's lots of great ways to cut hair. I don't only cut curls dry. I know sometimes that's, a question. I do cut, depending on the outcome, the shape that I'm going for, the quality of the curl. Sometimes I do a combination of wet and dry, which I've done recently on an online paid class called Hybrid, which is at hblive.me, where I do a very highly technical graduation around the perimeter using tension on damp hair, and then work the internal lengths kind of free form. But here I just decided, and sometimes it's just because you feel that way. I don't think there's a right and a wrong when it comes to cutting hair. It's obviously got to look good on the texture, it's got to look good on the person, but then the technique that you choose is really up to you. Guys, if you have any questions or you want, I'd love to give some shout outs, where you're watching from. Are you guys able to continue working? Or like us here in California, have you had to kind of take the holidays off? Probably the worst thing that can happen to a hairdresser. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you're able to work and how it's going for you.
Just want to take a minute here and say hello to everyone watching. Nick Guinness is here, Miranda is here, and a whole bunch of other fellow craft hairdressers watching along with us. Thank you.
Okay, so working on the balance now. You can see that I'm a little bit shorter on my first side, so I just want to work my way back through on the second side. Just letting that hair fall totally naturally. using my HB Pro Dry because I don't want such a blunt line. I'm not kind of really deeply cutting into the hair at this stage because this is the perimeter, but by using the dry scissor, you can see the shape of the blade, it curves. So as I close, it kind of pushes back on the hair a little bit, so I can get a controlled cut without it being truly blunt. Clean, but not blunt. Coming around behind the ear here, and really getting my foundation right. Okay, my balance is feeling pretty good now. So I'm going to take down my second panel. This panel is going to come from right below the parietal ridge, which is right here, and it's going to curve down into the nape. And I'm taking it, you know, loosely with the clip. You can even kind of zigzag a little bit with the clip if you want it even a little bit looser, just a little zigzagging like that, just so you've got a mix between the zones. Type of thing we do a lot with color, just so things kind of fuse together. Then you can see I never really firmly grab this hair. I just lightly grab it, fold it on itself, and just using these crux clips, try to hold it in place. Come around and match that on the second side.
Awesome. Just want to take a minute and say hello to everyone tuning in. Some people from Paul Mitchell, Shuni from Atlanta, still working, thank God. Ben Brown is here with us. Lauren, hello. Welcome, everybody.
Great to have you all joining us, guys. Really appreciate the support. For those of you that are able to work, I'm so glad for you. I know a lot of hairdressers here in California or any place else that's shut down. I know Toronto. It's a tough time for us. I mean, this is already the third time. We're trying to make the best of it. Again, you know, at Hairbrain, we say, well, you know, the least that we can do is keep educating ourselves and getting better. And that's kind of the only way that we know how to really help, you know, is to help directly give whatever education we can. All right, if I feel the hair is disturbed at all, I can use something like Rinseless Refresh from Aveda. This is nice and light, lighter than water, so it won't weigh the hair down or change the curl pattern. But, you know, if it just was maybe in the clip it got a little disturbed, I think this is a great product to work with. So you're still kind of dry cutting, but getting that hair back to where it kind of needs to be. All right, so I'm going to start using some elevation now. Same thing, I'm going to try to kind of just get the individual curl. I can see where the underneath piece is here. And now again, with elevation, just using the tip of the scissor to start to kind of build off that shape. Elevating. I can see the guideline. It kind of sticks together a little bit from the previously cut hair.
Now, what goes into the decision of taking that first cut when elevating?
The outline. So when I pick this up, so I try to, again, separate the curl. I can see where the previous hair is. It's right here. Some of it will stick together, or I can kind of see it right here and then lift it if it doesn't stick together and kind of aim for it. I mean, I don't mind a little bit of non-conformity in the shape, to be completely honest, but I definitely want it to have a certain feeling of graduation. So I look at it, I can look at the hair next to it, and working through.
So you're not cutting above it or below it, you're cutting right at your guideline.
Yes, visually. Although since it's lifted, it'll produce graduation. So when it falls back down, it'll be shorter than, if I cut it here, it's going to be right at the outline. If I lift it up here and cut it, when it falls down, it's going to be a little bit shorter than the outline because of graduation. But I follow that same point through, try to maintain it. And now I'm getting graduation off the outline. And I can get a little bit more as I work through. Checking, constantly refining around the perimeter. Thinking in a rounded way, so kind of bringing that hair slightly forward. Here's my line, lift it up and cut. It's kind of a curl by curl method. I mean, again, I always like to say there's so many great ways to cut hair, so please don't think, you know, that this is the only way to do it. I think the more we keep ourselves open-minded and interested, you know, this is something that we used to do, God, about 30 years ago when I started at Sassoon. We had a lot of freehand cutting. There was a collection called Raga, which was kind of revolutionary at Sassoon. Not everyone was so happy about it because it was all about this kind of freehand cutting. And mostly it went well with, you know, curl and wave And that's kind of an iconic thing. If you've ever heard of Raga, give us a shout out here in the comments.
Zach Schneider just tuned in and says, fortunately, he's been busy in the salon, but he's saying hello and nice to check us out now. Thanks, Zach. Big fans of yours.
What city are you in, Zach? Is it Chicago?
I'm not sure. I'm not certain.
I have a feeling that, but let us know what city you're in, and, hopefully things continue to stay safe and you're able to work. Okay, same on the opposite side now. Trying to get those curls separated. Looking at where the length is, lifting off the plane of the head. I'd say, obviously when you're cutting so freeform, it's kind of an estimate. I'd say I'm a little bit lower than true 45 degrees. I'll probably get higher as I work up the head. I'm just kind of off the plane, like a natural elevation at this point. I don't even want to put a number on it, but I'd say it's on the lower side. It's not completely a natural fall because I am lifting it. I'm trying to lift it consistently as I work around, but it's not super high. I'll go higher and higher as I go up the head. And the reason being, I forgot to spray. You can see the hair, the curl pattern a little bit more disturbed. If we use a little bit of rinseless refresh, lighter than water, look at that. It brings the curl pattern back. And I think that's just mainly because it was twisted up on the head for a minute or two. So it's just one of those things. Shake it in. Now that's not wet because that rinseless refresh is very, very light. It doesn't disguise the curl. I think it actually brings out the most natural curl pattern in my experience. So you want to find, some type of a leave-in spray that's lighter than water.
How do you make sure that you're lifting to the same point every time?
It's more of first off, it's a feeling, visually looking at it, feeling it. Second off, it's like the head shape, where the head is. Normally I would put the comb on there. I kind of put my finger on there and I look at it and I'm projecting off the same point. Now, if it varies a tiny little bit, I think especially for the look I'm going for, it's not actually a bad thing. It's just going to make it have a little bit more of an organic quality. But I think it's just a matter of, this is where feeling comes in. So I do personally think you should have, technical hair cutting under your belt. You should really understand graduation, whether that's a graduated bob, round graduation, wedges, fireflies. These are the foundations of great hair cutting and great control. And then you can see if you're ready to go more freeform like I'm doing here. And a great way to start out is with a great mannequin. This mannequin from Pivot Point is a Viola. Actually, it's an Irene. Irene's got a lot of beautiful, luscious, thick, long hair. And if you're just joining us, we had done previously a long curly cut. Now this is permed by Shraddha Mamatora, who's a friend of ours from LA, who we're definitely gonna have back again very soon. She does beautiful perm work, beautiful. And strangely, and I know a lot of us are like, wait, what, perms? We're seeing more interest. So we study a lot of search terms at Hairbrained, especially in our online store. And one of the things that's been growing more and more every month is the search for perm rods. So of course we try to listen to what our fellow hairdressers are looking for. That's what hairbrain.pro is all about. Supplying you with the tools that you need and the best ones. We want to do the legwork for you so that when you go out there, anything you buy from us, you can trust is going to be great quality. So usually what we do is we go to Japan, and believe it, in Asia, they never stop perming. In places like India, where Shraddha is from, and places like Japan and China, they've never stopped perming. So they've continued to really develop it. And we found some great perm rods from Japan that we're going to have available. And it'll be one whole kit where you can get basically, all the different sizes in one kit. And then over time, if you find yourself, leaning towards looser or a certain type, you'll be able to add to that. So look for that if you're interested in, and look for more perm education from Shraddha. Okay. Continuing through, I'm going to work from the same point at the front because I don't want to add a ton more hair to the sides. I'm going to work from the same point but higher in the back. And that's because I want to keep the top above the round of the head for a lighter technique. So same point, but working through kind of another section of hair here. So I'm not adding a ton to the front, I'm adding more to the back. And then again, using my crux combs, developed by Drew Schafering, our good friend at Hairbrained. These are also available at Hairbrained Pro. See that rubber band? Cal can get a shot of that. That's something kind of new in the perm world, in the clip world. So that when you clip it, it kind of acts as a barrier so you don't get too much of a mark or an indentation. Okay, remembering a little bit of rinseless refresh.
Michael Polsinelli is popping in and saying hello.
Hey Michael, how you doing? I know Michael's an LA-based hairdresser, so the shutdown's affecting him. And I mean, even though Michael's kind of world-renowned artist working with Davines, he's also got a clientele, which I love, because, you know, people think about Michael, I think about this incredibly creative, like avant-garde hairdresser. But, you know, Monday through Friday, he's working with Mrs. Jones and giving her the perfect, you know, perfect textured bob, which I think is great. It shows how diverse our craft can be. So, you know, and Michael, I didn't forget, I want to get up there for that barbecue. As soon as we can all safely get together, me and Kelly are going to head up and have a barbecue with you and your wonderful family. All right, so again, you can see now, elevating a little bit more, and even as I get behind the ear, I almost kind of keep elevating as I cut. So I've got a little bit of a transient elevation, so it's kind of moving as I'm cutting, so it gets even a little bit looser in this area. So coming off the plane of the head, lifting higher and higher, and cutting and seeing if I can kind of build that graduation up more. Continuing higher and higher. And you know, as I get back into the center, I'll even go start higher. So that's where I want that, you know, real kind of pop through the back. The sides, obviously there's the ear and lots of tricky hairlines. But as we get into this area here, I want to make sure we're getting the most lift. So you can see the roundness there, the way this shape is graduating, and just kind of lifting a little bit more and just lightening. Take another section in that area. I'll just stick to this one side. It's a little easier for Kelly to follow. Still starting from the same place, but going higher in the back. I didn't want to add too much hair to the front, but I can add more into the back. Right up to the crown. Again, you know, product is definitely important. And working with the product as you're cutting, especially if the hair is, you can see, it's dried completely naturally, actually over a few weeks from the last time this mannequin was cut, dried beautifully, but I do have to clip it out of the way. So then reactivating it, this is lighter than water, rinseless refresh from Aveda. I love it. I think lots of companies have things that are similar. Look at that. As I run my hand through, it doesn't even really feel damp at all. It just refreshes that hair beautifully.
Milo Maximovich is saying hello and is feeling your free hand.
My good friend, I hope you're doing well. I think Milo's in the Boston area, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So not lifting as high in the front quite yet, again, for all those reasons that we say. You've got ears here, you've got hairlines that tend to jump. Curl in general tends to be a little tighter right at the front hairline. I find, well, it's not always, but it's just something that's like a safety valve with me, because sometimes this hair here can disappear, especially if you're trying to keep a corner. But as I get into the back, I'm definitely lifting and trying to get more lightness on top of that foundation of line and graduation. I will say with this, you kind of have to start to get a rhythm on. You know, you have to kind of like work with your fingers, work with the scissor. There's definitely a rhythm here. And doing a little checking, looking at what's happening.
Is there a point where you're mindful not to elevate too much?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to go, for what I'm trying to create at this point, I wouldn't want to go above 90. So I'm kind of like from 45 to 90, I would say. I'm going to go above 90 when I get on the top of the head and do some kind of lightening. So I mean, in simplest terms, if I was doing a technical haircut, it's line, graduation, layers. You know, it's just, I think it all is so relative. That's why I think it's so important to understand your fundamentals. And I have to say, those people out there that are considered the most creative, people like Michael Polsinelli, who I've spoken to about this many times. It's like, if you don't have the fundamentals, specifically in haircutting, precision hair, understand precision hair cutting, this stuff is never gonna work. So, working up right above the round of the head here, I can probably go just a touch higher here. And using that little zag with the clip, you'll see it as I come around to the front, zigzagging. Doesn't have to be perfect, you just want a little bit of inconsistency in your line. Looking for the balance from there to there. Looks like plenty of hair to work with on this section. And then folding that over gently, refreshing the curl. So in anything, even something that seems so freeform and sculptural like this, there has to be discipline. How I section it, how I hold it, where I stand. You know, I think when we just forget about all those things, hair just becomes a chop fest. So where was I here? I was standing a little bit in front of what I was working on, so I could work this way. And I could bring the hair and bring it a little rounder. So I want to stand a little bit in front of what I'm working on, yeah? I want to try to mirror image myself from side to side. Again, starting in the front, not lifting too high, just a little bit of lift on these first two sections. Off the plane of the head, I'd say lower than 45 degrees, really. As I start to get further back, I can start to lift a little bit more. And once I get like behind the ear, I'm starting at 45 and elevating even a little more. A lot of feeling, but it's a technical feeling of understanding. We're coming to you live from Southern California. We've had a beautiful winter. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but sometimes winters in Southern California can be a little dreary because of the rain. But I don't know, Kel, do we have one day of rain so far this winter?
So far.
So we're super happy, excited to celebrate, you know, as much as we can safely with friends and family over the next few weeks. But really feeling, you know, sad for all of our fellow hairdressers that are out of work. You know, we'd love to support. We try whatever we can at Hairbrained. We've always found the best way we can support is through inspiration and education, and you know, supporting any other greater initiatives like the PBA, Disaster Relief Fund, helping to spread the word there. But if you're out of work, you know, at the very least, I feel for you. And if there's anything I can do, don't hesitate to send me a message. Okay, just looking at the balance from side to side. You know, you might have to every once in a while kind of expand it a little bit. You know, keep checking that outline. You want to have, you know, it doesn't have to be a blunt line, but you want a definition of roundness. And any little guys, inconsistencies we want to refine. And then we want to look at this graduation here. You know, as I mentioned earlier, this is a perm, which I love. I love seeing, you know, I've been hairdressing long enough that I remember perms being a part of our business. And I think that they have a place again. I think that they can come back in a really fun way. I think, you know, what's interesting to me, having talked to a lot of hairdressers that haven't experienced any perms, is them not realizing how versatile they can be. You know, that a great perm can be blow dried straight, and it gives you so much more body and movement and texture than without it. But it can also be more natural. It doesn't always have to be tight. I'd say this is a medium tightness. Could be looser than this, could be tighter. There's so much versatility.
Juliana is just popping in with a message saying that your videos are awesome. Thank you. She learns so much and it takes her mind off things.
I appreciate that. Again, if that's the least that I can do or that we can do at Hairbrained, then, you know, that makes us feel good that we're helping to support our fellow hairdressers. Next section, again, they're all kind of emanating from that same point, so there shouldn't be too much hair at the front, and I'm not taking too much of that weight away. But then once I start to get back in here, I'm lifting more. And then we're going to make another transition right above this point. So a little rinseless refresh, lighter than water. You can see it just gets that curl back visible again and makes it actually, for me, easier to technically cut it. You know, I have to say I'm kind of cutting more from the underneath I tend to do that with like freehand graduation. It seems like it's like a micro graduation within a graduation, that you're getting this support by cutting it from the underneath. I don't know that, you know, you have to do it that way. And I'm also, you know, I'm not cutting totally blunt. I'm using a dry cutting scissor, which just kind of gives a soft line. Yeah, you can work with this, maybe a slightly duller scissor if you don't have a dry cutting scissor, just because I don't want the end so crispy. So here we go, above, going from 45 to above to almost 90. In this area here where I'm working through and starting to take out more weight. Just checking it into the first side, both technically and visually.
Is there any type of like cross check you can do, or?
It's totally, you know, for me, I don't want to like start combing and going across the hair. It's totally visual, and it's about expanding, moving the hair, having her shake her head. So it's a visual check. The check is visual. The whole thing is checking constantly, but for me, it's not like taking a section. You could if you wanted to. If you wanted to wet her down and maybe go through it, you should be able to see some shape here. I don't have a problem with that. It's not what I'm going to do today, but you could, you know, send her, you could do this, put the shape in. You could send her to the shampoo, come back and cross-check it more technically. I mean, I would say if you're cutting a lot of hair off, you maybe should have thought more about the basic shape dry. It seems kind of, you know, like maybe you could have taken more off at that point. But there we go. All right, again, looking for balance, the hardest part when you're working without a mirror. Normally I'd be back and forth looking in the mirror.
Juliana was wondering about the dry cutting scissors. What do you recommend?
These are ones that we've designed. I've designed at Hairbrain. They're called the HB Pro Dry. You know, the goal here, I've been working with dry cutting scissors probably for about 15 years. I remember the first time I saw a fat scissor like this, I didn't even know what it was for. And over the years of working with different Japanese hairdressers, I learned that way that these are curved. So when they close, they push the hair out as opposed to pulling it in and cutting it crisp. But, you know, I often found that, you know, because it was like a new thing and maybe a little gimmicky, they were super expensive, kind of to me overpriced, $1,500. I just thought this is crazy. So we worked really hard to find a great scissor partner in Japan. These are made in Japan. They're not just Japanese steel, or we don't just use the word Japan. They're made in Japan by Mr. Takahashi, who is from the Hikari family. He went on to start his own company, and he works with different people to make scissors. And I love these. HB Pro Dries, they're $325, I believe, at Hairbrain Pro. Actually, I think they're $425. Can't remember. All right, so dropping this down. All right, now things are going to change a little bit. I'm going to use the rinseless refresh again, although that's kind of fun. You know, if you had somebody who was more creative. I love those little disconnected curls. That's from the twist cutting that we've done in the past. So I could keep doing what I'm doing and blending this in and just have this little curly bob, but I want to push it a little further. So rinseless refresh, getting my clip out. I'm going to now start to bring hair forward toward the face and lift and layer through the top in almost a similar way of creating a shape around the face, which is almost like the baseline, and then beginning to lift. Now these roots have dried in with kind of a little bit of a separation, which is okay. I think, you know, in subsequent, if this hair was shampooed, I could probably eliminate that, but I'm just going to work with it for the moment. And I'm going to bring this from the shortest piece. I'm just going to try to find that. Again, no tension, letting it live where it wants to live. Since I'm cutting a little blunter, I'll kind of cut from the top. You know, not a rule, just kind of a feeling. Cutting a little blunter, I feel like, you know, cutting from the top, I'll get a little more of a definite line. And then when I start to graduate and layer, I tend to maybe come from the underneath a little more. So just bringing these down and working in a fringe. You know, and if I need to, I can dampen it a bit more at the root, but I think it'll work. You know, length choice can be the most important thing. Like right there, that I feel like there was a little extra on the ends that wasn't necessary. A little extra wiggle in the curl. So that's what I'm just coming back totally freehand and kind of lightening that.
If this was a client, would you be cutting this close to her face, or would you be elevating this hair, or?
I feel comfortable. I work with, it's just like this. If you watch it on my hand, I can put this on my hand and open and close without cutting myself. I think you have to practice that now. I wouldn't necessarily go in like this, but you can come anything other than a 90-degree angle. So anything like this, I'd feel pretty safe. If you don't feel safe, which I can understand why you might not, you might use like a wide tooth comb like this and just give yourself a little bit of left. But I don't want too much left. And for right now, I'm keeping the corner here that I worked so hard to establish. We'll see where that develops.
Juliana was wondering, how would you go about removing bulk on curly hair without making it puffy?
Listen, there's something to be said for technical hair cutting. I mean, if you did like a one-length haircut to get your outline in, and then use twist cutting, which was a technique that I've done earlier on this same mannequin, and twist cutting can really work well at removing bulk without putting in visible layers or expansion in the shape. If you go back through our Facebook Lives, I think it was probably, within the past 2 or 3 months, you go into our video section here at Hairbrained, and you will be able to find it. It's called the twist cut. It was on the same exact mannequin, and it was a great way to eliminate bulk without overly layering the hair. So, I can even start to let her head lean forward. I am going to start to get a little bit of elevation happening now. So since she's forward, I can see how much easier it is. I would just ask my client to put their chin down a little bit. It's just easier on my body, easier to control. And I'm going to start to pick up some of the hair behind the corner here and just lightly work into the graduation, bringing it forward. But corners like that, I don't usually cut them off quickly. I like to see how they develop and then if they need it or not. So this area here, if I want to totally round it through, or where I want to go with it. Again, head goes slightly forward. Section, just using my crux clip. And trying to lift more and more each time. Put that comb down because I don't really need it. Now again, working from the underneath. Opening and closing as I elevate the hair.
Well, Douglas McCoy just popped on and saying hello.
Hey buddy, how you doing? I'm not sure, are you guys able to work up in Washington State? I hope that you are, because I know you've been hit hard this year with not being able to work.
He just did an awesome Facebook Live for us with Aaron Co. the other day on Monday.
The man, the myth, the legend.
That
Mr.
was a great one.
McCoy. So you can see how that's developing and how some of these pieces that pull forward, they fall over here and they begin to put some lightness on top. This great kind of, I wasn't thinking it at the beginning, but it's starting to kind of have a little bit of this Debbie Harry kind of feeling. I guess any bob with bangs that's unstructured, that has texture to a certain point, owes a debt of gratitude to Debbie Harry. All right, so as I've come around the back, I don't want to bring it so far forward because I won't get any weight out. So I'm kind of just starting from this point. And now instead of bringing it all the way forward, I'm just bringing it slightly forward. And again, still lifting as I cut. Curl by curl, lifting as I cut. And again, so I get lightness. So it was kind of all forward from here, but up. And then once the head turned, I move around to the back. And again, I owe all this kind of thought process to classic haircutting. If I was doing what's called a shake or a shag, that's what I would do. I mean, I would know if I keep pulling all this forward, I'm not going to get any magic in the crown. So I know I had to kind of change my positioning a little bit here. Otherwise this hair would just be too long and too heavy. So once that head shape turns, I move with it. You know, and then trying to work to just separate out those curls. And now that I'm really in the crown, I'm going higher and higher. Starting at about 90, about 45, and going higher and higher. Again, don't even need numbers. Just think, hey, low, a little bit higher, highest. And then, you know, work on it with your eyes. And then constantly evaluating what's happening around the shape. Probably the last section on this side, and then we'll move into the opposite side. Again, bringing it forward, but less and less forward each time. I'm trying to get it up higher and higher. Even just doing a little bit of kind of stroking on this piece before I cut the length off. This is where I want it to be nice and light. So we can get expansion in the crown, and we don't end up kind of triangular, which I don't think that's a bad thing. It just wasn't the look I was going for here. So you can see we go from line into graduation into kind of a light layered effect through the top. And then we're always pruning. Cool. A little kabuki-esque, for those of you that know some of that hair cutting history. Okay, so now for the hard part, to try to emulate that on that side. Let me recap since we've got new hair here. Very low elevation, get in the baseline, start to lift by bringing it down and forward, down and forward, down and forward, but each time a little bit higher. Then as the head shape turns, really start to lift out more and more and more so that you don't have overhang in the crown and don't have anything too solid. Okay, so visually, because we've got that split in there, we'll take a little bit off here and see how much it lifts. Okay, a little bit more. So since this is blunter, I'm cutting more from the top. All right, I'm giving myself a little bit of room there. I think I'm still a tiny bit longer on this side of the bang, but with all the refining and checking, that gives me room to play, and knowing that the hair above it is going to be lifted. So bringing that hair forward and thinking square, that'll give me just a little bit of curvature into the corner. Forward, but think square. And then the head shape will give me a little bit of extra hair in the corner to play with. And again, I don't want to lose the corner of my bob. You know, when that hair gets perhaps redamped, I might be able to get rid of that. But even if not, you know, it's kind of like the curtain bang of permed hair. Okay, I'm going to get a look here on my... Okay, that feels pretty balanced, knowing that this is going to get a little lighter, it always does. Next section, using my crux clip. It's got that great band in it so that it doesn't crease the hair. Using my Aveda rinseless refresh to reignite that curl texture. Love that stuff.
Miranda's saying that pruning is what she thinks of too when she's detailing her curls.
Yeah, it's a great word, I think. I think, you know, words, you know, so especially when you're an educator, but even when you're not, I mean, just when you love your craft, we want to have words to describe what we do rather than, hey, I do this. I think it helps, you know, make it more real for us. And it also helps it evolve, you know, because as you change something, the word changes a little bit. So, you know, big lover of thinking about terminology. And, you know, I don't necessarily mean that I have to share that with a client. You might have people that could really appreciate that, but you don't have to. Although I will say I've used the term pruning with clients before and they generally think they get it. You know, it's so logical and, you know, especially if they've never had this kind of cutting done before, something free form. They tend to really want to know why and how. And it might separate you from somebody else that doesn't, you know, even put words to what they do. Okay, again, each section as I bring it forward, downward, but then a little bit more lift than the previous. I can put the head down. That helps a lot. That's what I did on the opposite side. Better for your body, easier to lift and control. And by about this point, I was coming like right off the plane. Again, I can see where the length is and working from the underneath. You know, for me, this kind of cutting, you know, it's like script or cursive, right? We all learn print, how to print our letters in our name. And I think, you know, there's a kind of a uniformity there that they really should all kind of look somewhat similar. But then when you start to, and I know a lot of people don't even do this anymore. I've heard they don't even teach it in school. But cursive or script, you know, we all kind of put our own spin on it. So, you know, if you do try this, doesn't mean you have to do it exactly like I do. You really shouldn't. You should just take an inspiration from it and then put your own little spins, dot your I's in different places, put your T's in different places, your crosses. But most importantly, have fun with it and you know, make sure that your clients love it and they're having fun and they feel beautiful and they feel like you're doing something special for them. You know, with the lockdowns, I've had different people ask me, oh, you're worried you're going to lose your clientele? And, you know, I've always said no, because I've built these relationships. And I think even though the haircutting is important, and I know that it is, once I've established that they are happy with the way I cut their hair and I'm consistent, it's more than that. It's the relationship. And, you know, my clientele's in New York. I live in California. And I have to be honest, you know, the times that I have been able to travel home when lockdowns were lifted, etc., I've been busier than ever. They've been so happy to see me. So, you know, just that word to everyone, if you're, you know, if you did lose clients, then you have to think, okay, what's my technique? Is it my technique good enough that they know it and they feel like they can't get what I give them just that easily? And what about my relationship with them, you know? Now that can be hard because sometimes people are one or the other, so focused on technical that they don't really think relationships are important, or they're so relationship that they don't focus enough on technique. But just like everything, it's about the balance of the two. Okay, now getting into the points where I'm lifting a little bit higher as I come around into the back of the head, trying to just separate those curls out. Hair is just a little bit damp from the rinseless refresh, but in no way is it what you'd consider wet, weighed down, or distorted. It's actually, I find the curl patterns easier to read. It's more accentuated. So finding, you know, a product that works for you. And again, you know, it's hard enough with technical cutting to get a good balance from side to side. With freeform or visual cutting, it goes even to a whole other level. So you got to think about body position. You got to really think about matching up the elevation, the over direction. So important.
Melinda was wondering about a close-up of the product, so next time you pick it up, if you can.
Yeah, it's something that's been out, I don't know, maybe about a year or two from our friends at Aveda. It's called Rinseless Refresh. So the idea, you know, for a client, it's like something they get with not a dry shampoo because it's not like tacky or heavy like that in any way. It's like lighter than water. I think they call it micellar. I don't know what micellar means, but I know it's something good. Hair and scalp refresher. Maybe somebody knows what micellar is. I know it's something fabulous. But it's not like a dry shampoo. It's not like tacky, or it actually, the hair just feels clean and refreshes the scalp. And I've just found, you know, since I work so much with natural texture, in one way or another, whether I'm cutting with a razor, whether I'm cutting technically or cutting freeform, you know, I usually like to encourage natural texture movement rather than kind of straighten it.
James Abu Alba is saying hello.
Hey James, how you doing? Great job with the
Hair in the
Worldwide Hair
Clouds
Tour and so many of the great lives that you've done for us at Hairbrain. James did a great Facebook Live series this year. One of our really most popular of the year, wasn't it, Cal?
I think so.
Super popular. He kind of did a progressive cutting where he started with some more fundamental stuff and the next week got more and more advanced. Again, you know, for those of you that have the time, which I think a lot of us have a little extra time on our hands right now, head to the Facebook page for Hairbrained, which are kind of where we're broadcasting from now, but go to our actual page and have a look in the video section. There is a little tab that says video. And then we have an area for Facebook Lives where you can really have a look through. You know, and then some of the best ones, what we do is we curate them over to hblive.me, which is our kind of paid education experience. And although we do tons of free education literally every day across the world digitally, we also have a paid platform. And the idea there is the level of production is higher. I mean, let's be honest, Kelly and I are here in the living room. We're decorating for Christmas. She's using a phone. I'm using, you know, just little prop-up lights. And, you know, if you feel like you get something out of this, imagine the whole next level with multiple camera angles. We have crane camera angles, perfect lighting, perfect sound. So I really encourage you to check that out. Courses are generally $29.95. We have frequent sales, which we just went through a big Black Friday sale where all courses were $19.95. And coming soon, we're going to have a subscription. We wanted to wait till we had enough videos, enough hours, and probably by the end of the month, beginning of the year, we'll be close to 80 hours of videos. And we're committed to putting out multiple videos a month there. So we've already got about another 18 filmed that we're going to be releasing. So we're well ahead of the curve. And we're going to be launching that soon, $24.95 a month. But again, we're going to have an early launch sale where you will be able to sign up for $19.95 a month. Now, normally the courses are $19.95. This is a whole, every course available in your subscription and new courses every month. And it's not just me, I think that's important. I think there's a lot of great subscriptions out there. But what we try to do is work with lots of different people. I do get in there from time to time now.
James was wondering about the mannequin. It was the Irene, right?
This is the Irene, which is beautiful. It's kind of like pre-layered when you get it. So it's great for, you know, styling. It could be great for coloring if you don't want to have to put in a basic shape. It comes with like a pre-long layered shape. What we did was send it to our friend Strata, and Strata permed it. And the first thing I did was a long cut on this a few weeks ago using what I'm doing now, a little bit of twist cutting to lighten it up. And then I decided to go into this like little kind of rounded bulb. So here I'm just twisting the hair and lightly opening and closing without closing all the way. So again, take a little more of the edge off where it needs it. All right, so I've got this corner here and I kind of enjoy it. I mean, I could round that off and maybe we would do that next time to change her haircut a little bit, but I'm liking the boxiness of it. I think it makes it feel a little bit kind of fresh, a little different. Could be fun with color. Could put some fun little things going on here. You know, now as far as the bang, because it dried with a parting, I've got a separation here, but I want to start to see what happens if it kind of comes together. Can get some more rinseless refresh in here at the root. Bring that hair forward. Make sure that there's no corner in the center. Yeah, and again, definitely a bit of a Debbie Harry kind of thing going on here. You know, if this was dried forward like this, I'd be lifting it out of the bang so that out of the eyes so that I could customize it. But we'll keep it a little visor-like for fun. Blondie, bad girl bangs. Blind girl bangs, maybe. Now, it's all, you know, this is where I'd really be in the mirror. Moving the hair, shaking it, lifting it. Put the scissor down sometimes. Come in here, get your hands in the hair. you know, I could send her back to the backwash, to the shampoo, get it re-wet down, go through it technically if I felt like I needed to. Do different styling techniques. I can either do a wet and go, which is a great technique for curly hair. It's all about detangling, adding the product purposefully. Or we could do an expanded dry. Lots of fun things.
Vilma is popping in and saying hello and mentioning that she loves this haircut.
Hi Vilma, hope you're doing well. I believe you're able to stay open right now through the holidays. I know a lot of us, you know, live in places where that's a challenge. So hopefully you're able to make the best of it. And happy holidays to you, your husband, your whole team at Ziffium. You know, definitely got that 80s vibe going on here. I think it's mostly because of the perm texture, which I enjoy. And I don't want people to think perms have to be exactly like this now. There's so much versatility and it's coming in a really fun way. But in this case, because it's just been cut dry and freehand, it really has that 80s kind of, again, I just keep going back to Debbie Harry. I think I'm just about where I want to be with this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope that you have the ability to get back to work soon if you're out of work and do it safely. And, you know, please stay safe, my friends. And I'll be doing these pretty much every Wednesday for the foreseeable future, trying to do something fun for you guys and connect with you. So thanks again for joining us and peace out.